Jumalan terve, Laura.
Terve, Otto. That was powerful.
Yeah, I just had to say it because, in Finland if we have listeners from Germany, when you say in Germany, in South Germany, they say grüß Gott.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this saying. I think most of the ways to say hello, like revere someone by saying hello, has this some kind of connotation. So I said, God, be healthy or something like that, or health in the name of God or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. But our listeners, welcome again to another episode of Spirit of Sauna podcast. This is our attempt to truly understand the essence of löyly, essence of sauna, and we don't want to avoid controversial topics. I want to say this before every episode because most of our perspectives are quite different, I would say, than sort of the mainstream views on sauna. So in this podcast, we want to be very inclusive. So you're welcome to listen, even though you're not so interested in maybe philosophy of sauna or the principles behind that. But just be beware of the fact that we want to go deep into these topics. And today, definitely, we will do that.
Yeah. But luckily, sauna is in that way merciful. When even talking about sauna, sauna is so concrete, so, so physical.
Yes.
So even when talking about, deep philosophy, you cannot totally take the concrete experience of our life out of it. So
Right.
That's why I love to talk about any topic that even is very abstract and philosophical. I love to bring it into the set of sauna.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking, I never thought about it like this, but maybe sauna and childbirth have something similar. Mm-hmm. When you think about how science looks at childbirth, it's very sort of clinical, I think, and also what I've understood is that there's not so much research that actually midwives are really have a huge role in doing the practical work to understand how it actually has to be done safely. And this is in a situation where it's completely normal and nothing is wrong. Of course, when something goes wrong, you ask for the doctor to come in. But before that, I was working 10 years ago with the International Association of Midwives, and they're doing important work around the world. And yeah, it's sort of I could sense the similar kind of dynamic than with sort of the popular talk about sauna when it comes to the work of the midwives or childbirth in general, is that the women there sort of have this feeling that is it like, do we understand what happens in childbirth? Is it really, are we so advanced as a civilization that we really truly understand what happens and how to prevent things and so on? And then on the other hand, there's this idea, maybe if you're a gynecologist, you think, oh no, there's nothing, special. It's just how it happens. It's like this and that. So we're here, the ones asking the question, like, is it really, is sauna so simple as, the steam and then you get some sweat and that's it? Or is there maybe a deeper part to it? Yeah. Well, you are mother of 3, so how would you see this? Is this a apt conversation?
I think so, yeah. And also to add to that, childbirth, as also sauna, is a very concrete, and there is no denying that yes, the steam, water, heat, steam, those are very vital.
Yeah.
Sweat, so important, and these are very physical things, and no denying that's the magic.
Yeah.
Similarly in childbirth, it's the magic of baby coming out of the womb and being born, and very physical, very concrete, and very measurable.
Yeah.
But then it comes to the whole other level when you realize that it's a magic that nobody really understands.
Yeah, right.
And how it really truly can happen. And the woman herself, even it happens to her, she does it. She cannot really grasp it. And all the mythologies and traditions, try to describe it and tell the story in different ways, and so I find that this comparison is very accurate.
And also like that they fail every time.
Yes.
And they also admit that we fail. Please, they sometimes even especially in yoga texts they say, please forgive me for my stupid try to understand this. And also when I'm thinking about this one sauna spell where you say että ei ole löydyn löytämistä, ei lämmön lähenemistä. So you cannot find the löyly. No. And when it comes to the topic today, this idea of not being able to find the löyly is very important starting point. Yeah. Because I would want to sort of dive into this topic in a very practical way. So I think it's about maybe a couple of 100 times already that I come to the smoke sauna in the morning to put on the fire. And it's a smoke sauna. It's underground. So when I enter the sauna to bring the benches out, because if you don't know about smoke sauna, you have to bring the benches out because the room will be filled with smoke. So everything inside will be completely black. And so it's a good idea to take the benches out. And I go in and it's always warm. But it's not just warm. Because I've been to that space so that it was warmed up with radiators. That was when we actually just had built the sauna. And it's made out of these blocks and concrete. And you would need to put the fire, not the fire actually, but the heat on for a couple of weeks so that the cement will dry, or is it plaster? What's the name? I don't know. Cement. Anyway, will dry up. And the feeling was absolutely different with the heat. So you go in there, you sense, yes, there's heat. There's maybe 40 degrees heat. It's quite hot inside, but it doesn't feel the same. But you cannot put it into words. What's the difference? If somebody would ask me, what was exactly the difference? I couldn't know.
You could speculate about it.
Yes, I could. And then I would say that what was different is that now when I go in the morning to the sauna, and yesterday I've probably been the last one to leave there and poured the last löyly. It's the echo of that last löyly that is still lingering in there. And the heat has a soul. It's something you cannot describe. It's something you cannot see, smell, or even in the feeling. It's not just the heat. It's something entirely different. And when it comes to elements, this has sort of been a very revelatory moment for me that the elements consider the smoke sauna more than anything else, because there you can actually feel the heat. Next morning, or even 2 days after the last time you poured the löyly. So it sort of never leaves. The löyly is always there.
Yeah, and sort of the fifth element that is a controversial topic even in the world of elemental theories and philosophies, because there are some schools of knowledge or philosophy that say that no, there is only 4 elements.
Yeah, right.
Fifth is not even not possible to grasp. So they just take the 4, and so this löyly is a little bit like that.
Right.
You could almost say that it's not. It's not there.
Yeah,
but
you're just imagining,
you're just imagining because you've done it so many times. You have that feeling that it's there.
Yeah.
But then when you really start analyzing how you were describing it, there is something more there.
Yeah.
And it's the level that takes us to the beyond.
Yeah. And it's actually funny that we don't consider this fifth element being sort of that it is well, I understand how it's a topic of philosophical discussion, but like 4 elements. Probably, if dear listener, you were looking at the name of this episode, there's 5 elements. You're what? 5? No, it should be 4, right? So I hope you clicked because of that, because that we want to start with the 5th one, and also end there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Especially in ancient Greece, you would have sort of. I guess Plato was more on the side that you would have the 5th element, which we could call ether, maybe. In Indian philosophy, it's akasha, and and then you would have the more Aristotelian leaning tradition where you would say, no, it's 4 elements, because the 5th one is empty. So there's nothing there. So why even talk about it? And then they would make jokes between each other and like, these people are thinking like this and so on and so on. So just that it's interesting that our popular culture thinks that is really 4. But when it comes to sauna, you just cannot miss that. Like löyly is the sort of how would I say? Is it the primus operandi of the sauna? That's why you heat up the sauna. That's why when you come there, you're anticipating the löyly and all of it, and puts the elements together. So everything. So we don't even want to talk about the other elements without the löyly. It doesn't make any sense.
A löyly is the context where everything else happens in, and like löyly is the context for all the other elements to be relevant and to exist even.
Yeah.
And funny enough, it is the context and basis, but yet again, it's the end result also. So
yeah, right.
This is like, it's the alpha and omega. It's the, the beginning and the end result. So I do understand why it would be said that it's not even relevant.
Yeah.
Because it is all that there is actually.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And today, now when you go to Wikipedia or whatever and you ask about löyly, it says it's the steam that comes when you pour water, and that's it. Very seldomly you hear anyone speculating about anything else. It's very physical, cold, dead, rational principle of the mechanical principle of the sauna. But we don't see it like that. I think it's the spiritual essence, it's the soul of the sauna. It's what like when Finnish people, for example, are talking about the elves in the sauna. It's funny. Of course, there's this concrete element for children. I say, can you see that little elf right there? Oh, you just missed it. Because kids love that. But as adults, no, it's not about that. It's about that you would have a guide, sort of a haltia of the sauna in itself, guardian of the sauna, so the soul of the sauna. And if we would think about sort of this metaphysical principle of that, then maybe löyly would be the breath of this guardian. So, you have the concrete form of it, but the principle of it is beyond the concrete.
Yeah. And this is in the Finnish tradition. You mentioned this, that this has been known in the runes, in the sauna invocations, when we are doing an invocation for the first löyly of the sauna session. We very often we sort of admit this fact that we started by stating that the wholesome löyly is actually all there is, but then we ended that yes, there is no finding it. We cannot ever reach to it. So
you say greetings to the principle, but in the end you say, okay, I'm just a dummy, I'm not gonna figure it out anyway. But nevertheless, the ritual is, that's the basis and the end point of the ritual as well. So But then we have the other elements, and we also have a particular order of the elements. I do know that in many wisdom traditions there's different kinds of orders, but actually I learned this order. You made me realize this order, that this is exactly the right order. Why would you say that air is the first?
Well, I think I have to little bit quote on this. Invocations of the first löyly. Because in the Finnish tradition we have very nicely runes that are called the birth of löyly, or the origin of löyly. It's a very tradition that we have put in a rune form or in a spell form, sort of the origins of many things, many important things, and löyly of course has many of these. And in these invocations, it is stated that when we state the origin of löyly, that it is the first movement that starts from the mountain, that is the beginning. And also when we are heating a smoke sauna, this becomes very concrete. Because if you don't have the air, the oxygen for the fire,
nothing happens.
What will happen? Nothing.
Right.
So you have to have that first movement, that first breath of air, or movement of air to have the first the fire to ignite.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the basis of the next element.
Yeah.
And this is exactly with elemental theories. It's always the idea is that the elements go in circles.
Yeah.
So something is sort of the prerequisite, I think is, to the other element. So you need some element to build up for the other elements to be able to start to build up. And then this element will feed the next one and so on.
Yeah.
So especially like in an Indian thought, in Ayurvedic thought, you have these chakras. So you have not the chakras that people usually know, but this is like circles that you can have one circle that is opening up and another circle that is closing up. And then you have different kinds of sort of interactions between the elements. But yeah, it is very concretely like this. Yeah. There's been a couple of times that we've had such a, what is it called? Low pressure?
Oh, yeah, like low air pressure.
Yeah, low air pressure or something like that, where it almost like feels that the air is pushing down. So when you go to the valley, you sense that, oh man, it's so, like the air is so...
Heavy.
Yes, right. And then you put the fire and you almost see that the smoke is going down first before going up. And we had this very traumatic sauna experience when we would just heat up the sauna for a long time, but you know, you would still have this very like not a nice löyly because the air in the start was not there. You know, it was I don't know if it's about oxygen or I don't know the physics about that, but somehow this sometimes happens. And but yeah, something that moves. You know, air is very good symbol for that. Sort of everything moves also in our system, in our mind, in our body. And you know, if we have a lot of air, it feels like we're airy. That's I guess that's also a word. And not rooted to anything. And when we think about sort of when we start from this perspective and we end to the water in the end, we also see that these are sort of the polar opposites. One is very light, another one is heavy. But on the other hand, the other one can be quite light and the other one as well heavy. So this is they always go to the two extremes, all of these elements.
Yeah. And sort of when we're starting a sauna ritual, be it that we're starting the sauna ritual from the point of starting the fire for the sauna, that we're starting the heating ritual of the sauna, or when we're starting just maybe performing a sauna ritual, as in we bring the people into the sauna, and sort of everything is very still and stagnant. It's sort of like they describe in the runes. It's the beginning mountain. Nothing moves, nothing happens. And then we start the first movement. It's a very airy procedure. Yeah. So like movement has to happen for there to be something to happen. Yeah, okay, that was very badly put.
but I get it. Yeah. And what happens is the sort of ignition moment of the fire. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so we have the basis. And of course, in practice, you have some maybe smaller logs. You put you chop a little bit, and
you have like dead wood. Yeah, you know, it's just there.
Yeah, right.
So we have to have something to happen.
yeah, something that is aiding the process. Yeah. Okay, so then what we do is we light up the match, and I do it with matches every time. I don't use a lighter. For me, it's important moment when sort of the sulfur ignites and you know I usually use a spell in that moment as well just to sort of celebrate that and it's a question of honor for me to have it start on the first go and actually in the smoke sauna it's quite easy even because it's quite warm in there, you know, usually we have quite nice wood for the start and so on, so it's quite a holy moment and there's sort of it's almost difficult to describe, but when it's a really cold morning and you just done all the preparation work and then it's so silent and you just hear that you know sound and then you notice it's starting to crack and you know that's the fire is there. So fire whether, you know, you can choose your mythology, but fire is always there. It's so important, like in Asia, in Finland, in European esoteric traditions, in the Native Americans, South Americans, everybody considered fire so holy. like the most important thing. Of course, concretely as well, because everybody needs to be warm. But even in the southern hemisphere, like maybe you know a little bit more about the African rituals, but they use fire as well. You know, for them, it is a center of the tradition, center of rituals, and so on. And of course, there's this idea of having fire inside of us. So our metabolism, it's a great symbol of our metabolism, that it's a fire that burns, and we have to sort of adjust the fire so that it burns optimally. Not to feed it to with just, you know, these bark, not to also like put damp massive logs, because then it will be, you know, on the one end it will be too bright, on the other hand it will be so damp that it won't burn. So you have to have a very nice balance in there. And now you have the sort of the basis in the air. So you usually put the small wood in, maybe you make a sort of almost a log house from there, so that the air can blow below it and have a nice fire.
Yeah, and sometimes when the fire is not strong, or maybe especially on an outdoor fireplace, you know, when you need to use, what is palket?
Oh, right.
So
what is it called?
It's like a pump that you use to sort of blow, ignite the fire again, and there, you know, you really feel it. Air ignites.
Yes, right.
And that's sort of the procedure of the elements
you
happening
can
right
blow,
there.
you know.
You can blow, of course you can blow, but this is, you know, like the power is so much there, you know, and it's like an action. But yes, of course you can blow. But yeah, air feeds the fire, and fire is in the runes they always talk about heat as a very important thing, because fire is a sign of life, like you were describing metabolism. It's a fire process. It's a burning process. It's a transformation process, and that's what fire does. And sign of fire is heat, and living body is always warm, and dead is cold. So sort of fire is in the runes celebrated always with the aspect of its heat, and I think that's why also, no matter how hot the climate is, the heat is always sacred, because it's a sign of life. Yeah, you know, you can just touch and you know, okay, this is a living being. It's it has some warmth. So so sort of, and sauna is truly a fire ritual.
Yeah, right. And also what we are celebrating when we celebrate fire is just the principle of life. Principle of us as living, breathing organisms. And fire is, of course, you have to have it regulated. That's the problem with fire. It's been throughout the ages. Like I think there never has been a civilization that didn't have this problem of unregulated fire. You know, whether it's a human person, you know, unregulated fire means you have like metabolic problems. And on the other hand, like in a town built out of wood houses, you know, unregulated fire is the death of the town. So that's, I think that requires massive amounts of skill to be able to contain the fire in that way that you actually exactly want. And when heating up a smoke sauna, it's especially important because, you know, here concretely, we need to have it very hot for some 8 hours, 10 hours. So you start from the first scratch of the match and until the end, you know, when you pour the löyly, you pour some water to cleanse the stones of the stove. The whole process, you're regulating fire. So you have to be very careful, and you have to open the hatches, close the hatches, use certain kind of wood, you know.
And feed it in a specific way.
And specific order, and you have to put the small logs to the right side and big ones to the left, and all of this. And you only learn by experience. Also, as a person, you learn by experience how your metabolism works and how you can regulate it and stay healthy. So now we're looking for a healthy löyly. So we have the same sort of objective in mind.
And sauna is sort of how would I say, metaphor of a human being. We have the similar system. We have our own stove, and we feed it certain things. And, and then the löyly flows freely or not so freely, depending on how a fire worship ritual is successful or not. So and this has been known in the tradition, because they very many times they describe even just the structure of the sauna, how important it is that it is geometrically and structurally balanced and harmonical. So that way you have a good löyly, and of course this has been nowadays reduced into a very mechanical thing. But this is in the same way as us in human beings. It's a very wholesome concept. That is our geometry in order, and are we then doing our fire process in harmonized way.
Again, I'm sort of reminded of this one-dimensional outlook on this, because then as we view the human, like if you think about sort of the ideal human, hard to say what it. Maybe you can look at the anatomy books. This is a person which is very proportional, symmetrical, and so on, and it doesn't exist in the real world. So, but when it comes to a sauna, you can actually do it perfectly, like very symmetrically. I've been to a few saunas that are just almost clinically perfect. That the thing is that the person who designed the sauna has really studied how the laws of physics work and how to produce the perfect löyly. But just like with humans, I feel like I'm in an anatomy book. It doesn't feel right. There's something missing. And I think you need these imperfections. Also, you need the imperfection in the löyly a little bit. Like, for example, I have the honor of usually having the last löyly at the sauna. And if you have the small sort of scent of smoke in the last löyly, it's like, this is goodbye tonight. It's kind of imperfect. Like I know that if I can use certain kind of wood, it won't happen. Like alder, I guess. What's the name of the wood? Anyway. Alder, aspen and alder as such, that you don't get this small smoke smell in the end. But on the other hand, I've learned how to respect that. And it's like, the sauna is now saying goodbye. So listen, So I need these imperfections. And just like I celebrate imperfections in humans, I celebrate those in the sauna building.
And I love it because in the traditional handcrafts and artworks, there has been always this, that no matter how perfectly you make it, you have to make mistake there. You have to because that's how life is. It's almost perfect, but always just a little bit crooked, so that it becomes spicy and it becomes lively. Because when you are in total harmony, then there's nothing there. It's everything and nothing.
Exactly, and ancient structures are reminded of that. Like the reason how I know that the pyramids were not built by aliens is that if you can travel from the Pleiades, why would you leave a mistake in there? And they left a mistake. It's about because the pyramids are, I guess it's 99.9996% aligned to true north, which is not easy to do. But it's, there's a margin of error, and they're just humans. They make errors. So no matter the scale, no matter the grandiose, no matter the perfection in a sense, there's always mistakes, and I think you have to have a balance of the mistakes. It's like regulating the mistakes in the heating process, regulating the fire, is that you make mistakes as well, and you learn from them, and the next time you sort of have it a little bit more optimal, but it will never be perfect.
No,
and that's good.
Yeah, and that's life. And we were talking about fire. Fire is truly life itself. I think when we're talking about the elements, fire sort of how would I say? If löyly is sort of the basis of the elements, sort of gives them the whole context. And löyly is what the elemental relations sort of are. But then fire is in that way essential that fire, how would I say? fire is fire and water, of course. They are both important, but all the elements are important.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But fire is in us who are living beings. It's a very uniquely important element because, like how we're describing, actually life is a lot about fire worship and regulation, sort of servicing the fire element. Yeah.
And that's what you do concretely.
Yes.
You actually kneel in front of the fireplace. And I have a friend who makes fireplaces, and he said, this is my primary motivation for doing this. We make an altar. People kneel. You have to kneel in front of it to make the fire.
Yeah. But when fire is burning, we definitely need to regulate it.
Yeah, right.
And because life is not about one thing. It's a full. Like we start the invocations always by saying terve löyly. It means a full, wholesome, healthy löyly. And so it requires that fire also is regulated and is put out. So then if the air is the movement that feeds ignites the fire, we need then the water to regulate it.
Yeah, right. And when it comes to the regulation, water and fire cannot regulate each other. They destroy each other.
Yes.
So we need something in between.
Yeah.
And this sort of, for the longest time, this was the most mysterious element to me, because I couldn't understand how Earth, and now, of course, when you say Earth, you always think about the clay and the roots and the sand and whatever, but the rocks, you know, and not just the rocks inside the stove, but also the stove itself. And most stoves nowadays are made of metal, and that's kind of like it's this kind of sad development. I think it's just for the ease and, you know, whatever. I'm very sure that you could make it from stone, because most of the stoves that we use, or not stoves, but like fireplaces, are made out of stone. Yeah. So you could most probably do any kind of sauna stove just from stones. But we have the privilege of having a stone fireplace or stove. How would I even say the heart of sauna?
Yeah.
Because in Finnish we have the word kiuas, and it's always a problem to translate this.
Another word we have to just take.
Yeah, right. So kiuas. And then when I think about the origins of the kiuas, you know, the stones, they have been underground or maybe on top of the ground, and they come from a quarry that you have to actually like chop the stone out and form something out of it. So how would you see this? You know, you have the fire, it's heating up the stones. Yeah. What's the meaning behind this earth element when it comes to the sauna experience?
Yeah, for me, it gives the concrete possibility to experience the other elements. Because like we were talking about, the very important aspect of fire is the heat. And the rocks, they collect the heat. They give us the possibility to experience the fire, which is ignited by the air, which is then when the water is poured, the rocks provide us the concrete experience of the water also. And sort of the löylys, of course, only possible with the rocks. So the rocks are the concrete. They are also the beginning, like I was describing about the mountain, sort of the beginning point of everything. It's the sort of the stagnant hole that is the that needs the first movement to start happening. And I often, in our sauna especially, because we have a very beautiful door, which is the Lady of the North, the Pohjan Akka. And Mother Earth always comes into my mind in this point. It's the sort of the Mother Earth just there. Yeah. And then we have this ukko of the air, of the skies, that gives the first movement, and things start happening in this earth, and fire starts heating it up. And then with the water, the sort of the fight or sometimes in mythologies they describe it love making or dance of the fire and water sort of happens in the earth, and earth is the only way that we can experience it, because like you said, they cannot directly meet. And earth also, from the sauna healer perspective, when you have a person that comes into your sauna and they are just there, they are also, that person is sort of the earth element, very concrete, very physical, stagnant, just you can really touch, feel
exactly.
feel that person, and then when you start moving the air, there starts heat happening, you have the water, and you sort of see how the löyly of that person starts living there, and so earth in the sauna, I would say it's very much about something that you can experience concretely.
And I'm sort of reminded, of course, these other wisdom traditions which have this healing practices. And for example, in the yoga tradition, earth is sort of usually the element where we start. We sort of start to look up from our own perspective, and then we're talking about the earth. And then, we have the Christian tradition say, earth, how is it? I only remember in Finnish, maasta sinä olet tullut, maasta sinä olet tulevan, from earth. You are from
the earth or from the ground, and
to the earth you shall return.
Yes.
So something like that.
It's not exactly like that, but something like that.
But also how we bury the dead and so on. So we put ourselves to the concrete ground. And from a human perspective, this might be exactly also this concrete lived experience that we have. We acknowledge it. We're here. But then we also acknowledge that there's a source and a root and different kind of elements that come together to form this, what we call body, for example. And it is, and exactly it is concrete. And when I think about the jobs that we have here at the sauna, I think there's nothing more concrete than changing the rocks of the kiuas. It's like it's so concrete. It's like you take all of the dust and everything. When you think about the fire, when you think about the air, there's a lot of mysteries in that. It's kind of like where does the air come from? Like what is the weather and everything? And with the fire, why isn't it burning today like this?
And why is it today going through the rocks? And
Why is this? The color of the smoke today like this, and all of these mysteries. But with the rocks, there's some, of course, skill needed in that. When you place the rocks, you have to place them in a certain way to get the best result. You have to have a certain amount and so on. But not so much mysteries when it comes to that. Sure, some, but just concretely, this is how I viewed that element. But then, of course, we have the last element, which is water. And very concretely, it is that moment where you pour your first löyly and you experience the heat again. You experience the soul of the sauna. You immediately know what kind of sauna is this. You can go inside. And for example, with me, when I go in the evening, it's always a guess whether there's any löyly left. Maybe there was a group of people who are really like strong sauna people, and they had 100 scoops of water in the stones, and there's nothing left. And even when I open sort of the hatch, I cannot, from this heat radiating from the stones, I cannot really know for sure. But when I know for sure is when I pour the first water. That's exactly, it doesn't leave any guessing. Yes, there's, from the sound, from the feeling, from all of the senses that it's here.
And water is truly essence of life, considering how much of us is water.
Right.
Water. So water is here to really regulate our fire. Also, concretely in us. But in the sauna, we are sort of like we're doing like an alchemist work. We're doing like a laboratory work when we are pouring to water, because water is for me almost the most mysterious of these elements, because you can sort of predict many things, but it is amazing how the way you pour the water, what kind of water it is,
yes.
what has happened to the water, where is it harvested from. It is amazing how the tone of the löyly is different with the water. And when we have our small treatment sauna where we have the active fire, and sort of there you have the fire is not just in the form of the heat in the that the rocks have harvested into them, but it's actually actively there. And there you have really a chance to play with this sort of the how would I say, the fight between the water and fire, because the water the amounts of the water you can put for the fire to still stand and this, and sometimes I think about the process that happens in us, as you know, we are sort of we are basically water and fire.
Yeah, that's it. And, in a concrete body.
In a concrete body, and we often have this, that we have too much of one of these elements when we are not balanced. And water is as essential it is, we can also drown internally into
think
the
about
water.
bloating, this might be part of it is too much water inside. Body cannot regulate, your cells cannot take in more water.
It puts down the fire, and sort of then you need a little bit of air, and you need to balance this. But water is also what takes us to the smooth rest, sort of, because at least in the sauna treatments and sauna healings, water is a very important element to balance the heat of the sauna. And we do use it very concretely. We can just splash some cold water on us and sort of in that way help ourselves that the fire doesn't also become too strong in our sauna ritual. When we are whether it is that we're doing sauna by ourselves or that we are hosting, guiding, facilitating a sauna ceremony, water is like a soft touch of a mother that, hey, come on, calm down. You don't need to be now pushing this so hard, and don't let the fire come too strong, just calm down.
Yeah, right. And that's exactly the feeling also, like it doesn't matter how difficult day, how tired you are. Actually, like in the past few days I've been in the sauna, I almost fell asleep at the sofa. It's like, should I go or not? No, of course I have to go and put to the sort of the end work in the sauna, so to prepare it for the next day. So maybe I just go for the löyly. And I know I never will regret it. But when I first sit on the benches, it's like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't even probably want to pour the water, but then I do. And the feeling is exactly that it a little bit bites you. First it bites you, and it's like, oh, whoa. And then it feels like, okay, this is exactly how things should be. Like now it's here. And the water, it facilitates that. And it's so important because sometimes it happens that we have bad water. Something has happened, to the water. I don't know what, maybe there's some trash or whatever. And it's like you get all of this, but then you're like, oh, something is really wrong with the water. And then you actually have no choice but to change the water. You cannot continue anymore. So again, we could say that water is the most important element, because a sauna without that water, as we're told so many times, it's a dead place. You cannot enjoy, you cannot have that löyly experience without the water. So just so important. And also how it defines the tone, in that sense that you can use, like you put some leaves in there, and it's very different. It's nice when you, in the summertime, when you've had the sauna ceremony, I come for the after steam, you have the birch leaves, and it's like, oh, so summery, nice. And then in the wintertime you have maybe some spruce leaves or something like that. So very interesting how you can live with the yearly cycle as well, with sort of spicing the water in a certain way.
And how much of this sort of information of communication water carries, and it carries it into us, our being, into our spirit, into our breath of life, into our löyly, but also this, how you're describing it in the sauna löyly, we can really change the whole mood of the sauna with the water that we use.
Right.
And it's a very powerful tool, very small thing to do, but a very powerful to change the whole setting. And I feel that the water element is something that even if you have an electric sauna, and even if it's from a tap, to have a small pause with the water is so powerful that even if it has run through so many plastic or whatever copper pipes, there is still some sort of like essence of life there so strongly that, with little modification, you can really change even the atmosphere of a hardcore electric sauna.
Right. Exactly. And it's something of flowing, living, sort of even almost a living creature, that water.
Yeah.
So that's what we celebrate, because it's the last element before the löyly, and then we're again returning to the basic essence of the sauna.
Yeah.
So the constituent of all of these elements, which is the soul, the most important part, and also the most enjoyable part. And especially when you've had the many hours of work, labor for the smoke sauna to get it nicely and nice and hot, and the stones red hot, and then having a long work day, and in the end you enjoy this because you created a living thing in a sense in the sauna building with these elements, and löyly is the starting point and the ending point of all of this.
Yeah, truly. And one thing I have been thinking about, because sort of the earth and earth is, even you describe it that it's concrete, like you can just feel the rock, you can feel the human body, you can feel it, but in a way löyly is sort of the, how would I say, the other side of that coin. Because where you started this description of a sauna ritual, how you enter in the morning and you you can sense the last löyly, but there I think it's very beautifully, you can experience this, that one way it is actually earth. It's just a concrete, stagnant beginning point that you're sensing.
Right.
But then again, the other flip side of the coin is equally true. It is the löyly that is there. And it's with that earth that we sort of operate. We start with the air and fire and operate it with the water.
Yeah.
And so sort of this, I sometimes think about how in one way it's all about actually the coin that we flip from one side to the other, exactly. Earth and löyly.
Right. So exactly. It's like a yantra, from sacred traditions.
Yeah.
Everything affects each other. So it's not a linear process, it's a cyclical process. So.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so it's for your time to start a sauna ceremony. Yes. There's people coming in. And this was a wonderful discussion. I'm really happy we had it, and we'll definitely explore the elements further from here. And again, I have to remind you, dear listeners, if you like what we're talking about here, if you want to listen to this podcast more, please subscribe and put also the notification button so you get the newest episode when it's out. So.
And we are very happy that we have few requests for topics to talk about.
Right, yeah.
And this I would like to remind that we really warmly welcome.
Yes.
We have a lot to talk about, but we also want to hear from you that what do you want to hear?
Yes,
us
definitely.
Talk about?
Most definitely. And it's been a wonderful journey, and also we're happy about is the sauna healer training. There's a lot of people sending us emails coming for the next retreat, so there's still some spaces, so you can just go to saunahealer.com to check it out, and then we can put these elements into practice very concretely here.
Yes, experience them together.
All right. Kiitos, Laura.
Kiitos, Otto.